This is it, full gas.
If you don't give it everything here at Le Mans, then you get nothing, do you? 38 car in the pit lane from second in LMP2. They were talking to Antonio Felix da Costa when he said, I've got a lack of pace, we'll try and see what we can do about it. I wonder what they can do about it. Now, he's had a tyre change. That's because he inherited a set of tyres when Roberto Gonzalez did his last stint to complete his driver time allowance, and so Antonio inherited that stint. Let's see what they've been able to do. Maybe they've gone with a different tyre pressure on the Goodyear to adjust to the fact that the tyre temperature, the track temperature is gradually starting to creep up. As you can see, it's a relatively sunny day here at the Circuit de la Sarthe. We're on board with a 95 Aston Martin, the Dane train, in third place. So Aston Martin Racing potentially on for a double podium here in GTE Pro. 4 hours to go, 20 hours gone at Le Mans. And a 1, and a 2, and a 1, and a 2. Do a little bit of that, actually. So let's just recap. 4 hours remaining. In LMP1, Toyota Gazoo Racing number 8 leads from the Rebellion number 3 and number 1 cars. That is your 1, 2, 3. In 5th place overall, United Autosport leading in LMP2 from Jota Sport and G-Drive. And there is the 1, 2, 3 in LMP2. Panis, Graf, Signatech Alpine, they're not counting themselves out of a potential podium either. This could be a gangbusters finish in LMP2. Into the top 20 now is our leader in GTE Pro. And don't forget, we started 24 LMP2 cars plus 5 LMP1s. So the best a GTE Pro car should have been is 29th. Maxime Martin leads AF Corsa's Alessandro Pierguidi and Niki Team. The AM class cars in the top 25. Johnny Adam for TF Sport ahead of Francois Perrodo and Ricardo Pera for AF Corsa and Dempsey Proton. And then further on down the order, the Halt and the Lame. Big delays for the factory Porsche 91 and 92. A horror story weekend for them. Into Europol a long way down. And then the last running car is the 88 Dempsey Proton car. Behind them, everybody else either retired or, in the case of the 37 Jackie Chan DC Racing car, excluded. There is the Goodyear Zeppelin overhead. Sure, the Americans will call it a blimp. It is, in fact, a dirigible airship. And it is built by Goodyear in association with Zeppelin, or Zeppelin in association with Goodyear. That's a fabulous addition to the skyline over Le Mans in the funniest year. Weird funny, bizarre funny, frailty funny. There's all sorts of different parts of this race that will mark it out in history, not just the fact that we're racing in September behind closed doors. Pit stops of cars number 1 and number 3, the Rebellions, under investigation. Takes a while for these investigations to be completed. Don't forget, not only are the 2nd and 3rd place cars overall under investigation, so too are the pit stops of the 2nd place car in LMP2 and the leader in GTE AM.
Fastest lap for Romain Dumas in the number 3 car, 21.8. Some way off the 319.2 of his teammate.
Yeah, 319.2 for Bruno Senna on lap 4. So fresh tyres, fresh driver, but laden with fuel in the opening stint of the race. And of course, that's when he was towing up behind the lead Toyota and trying to stay ahead of the sister car when he was in 2nd place early on. So potential pit stop penalties for the 2nd and 3rd place cars, and that would put the number 7 Toyota right back in contention were they to get something for a podium spot at least. Potential pit stop penalty for the 2nd place car in LMP2 and for the lead car in GTE AM. So there could be a lot of changes. Martin Haven, Jamie Campbell-Walter, Peter Dumbreck watching the action with you. Alex Le Gui down in the pit lane. Let's catch up with our race-leading Toyota Gazoo Racing TS050. Brendan Hartling still at the wheel.
13 kilonewton, not far from a Joker. You shouldn't be doing that. And you know that when you follow GT, they go much wider than us. So please be careful. It's fine, obvious. We just need to make sure that the car resists and the blank is correct at the end of the race. It's the main focus now.
Who's been busy with the Sharpie on the Hero card in the 83 AF Corsa Garage? What was it that Brendan Hartley was doing that he shouldn't be doing? Again, you know, team engineers seem to speak into a goldfish bowl.
To me, it sounded like he was following the lines of GT cars. GT cars run very wide over curbs onto the rougher areas, and he's basically saying, just take care of the car. You've got a big lead here. Stay on the track. Don't run off the track. Don't hit any curbs hard.
Yeah.
Take care.
Problem with that. It's a double-edged sword. The engineer's absolutely right, because they've got a significant lead, 4-lap lead, and at this point their main focus is winning the race. Brendan, however, is thinking, from previous stints, he's maybe had a look at the averages, and at the end of the day, we're all racing drivers, we're all competitive, and you all want to be seen to be fast. And the team, in 3 weeks' time, or in a year's time, when they're choosing their driver lineup for next year or the year after, they look at the averages of the drivers, and they forget about that radio call, which was, take it easy, don't take any risk, da-da-da. And then 3 months' time, yeah, but your averages throughout Le Mans were not very good. And they forget that they told you to go slow. So a driver always wants to perform and look good on paper.
There's always a subplot, isn't there? No matter how straightforward it looks. It looks so straightforward for Toyota number 8. Brendan, stay between the white lines. Toyota don't care about anything other than not losing this win. But as you say, for him, and we've already talked about Toyota's young star, Kenta Yamashita, who is in the high-class car. He is going to be a Toyota factory driver in the hypercar LMDH era, and that will leave them with 3 Japanese drivers, potentially, unless they get rid of one, which seems highly unlikely, which means fewer seats for Gaijin. And you're right, you know, he's the last one in. Brendan Hartley might be worried that he'd be the first one out.
Wow.
Is that the improved GTE AM line there? Horst Felbermayr going through, trying to stay out of everybody's way and sucking the AF Corsa 83 car along with him.
Maybe Brendan's been following them, you see, and that's why the engineer's seen it.
Yes, don't follow them off track and down through the escape road. That's the 77 car, isn't it? That is 77 ahead of 83. This is for position. So this is a change that's happened because the 83 car stopped recently. Ricardo Pera in the 77 Dempsey Proton car being chased by Francois Perrodo, and Perrodo having another starry performance. This crew of the 83 car came out of GT, raced in LMP2 last year, had a bit of a horrible time of it, went, do you know what? I really enjoyed the Ferrari. Can we just do that again? And suddenly they're producing the results again all year long. They really get on well with this car, with the AF Corsa team, and they found their happy place. And again, Perrodo all over the back of Ricardo Pera, really pushing the Mexican driver very hard indeed.
Well, it was Pera that just made the move. He made the pass on 2 cars than one.
Well, they both went off, didn't they?
Horst Jr. took a strange line, and the Ferrari followed him.
Yep. A very strange line indeed.
I think that's the thing for Francois Perrodo, who went to LMP2 last year and didn't get on that yet, had an unhappy year, didn't he? He's a race winner in this.
Yep.
He can win races, and of course any driver's going to prefer to be standing on a podium and taking a trophy home as opposed to being 12th in LMP2.
Sorry, Ricardo Pera, I'm not quite sure why I went Mexican. I'm thinking Ricardo Rodriguez, the Italian driver of the Dempsey Proton 77 car. And so that car second now in GTE AM. Whoa. Well, there's the side of the Red River Sport Ferrari with a very much not Red River Sport coloured door, because it had a massive impact with 2 tyre stacks at the second chicane on the Mulsanne straight in the depths of the night. Red River Sport car has been off more often than it's been on, I think. Charlie Hollings at the wheel now, as he was when it went off at that stage. Took the team a long while to actually get the battered door off the car as well. They were fighting for quite some while to get the door off so it could be replaced with a not broken one. And in addition, there was quite a lot of other collateral damage, so there's as much gaffer tape on the driver's side of that 62 Ferrari as there is original Ferrari componentry. Sweeping down into the S's, the #1 Rebellion in third place. Gustavo Menezes is now just 12.4 seconds behind Romain Dumas, and he caught him by 0.058 of a second. 58 thousandths of a second quicker than his teammate on the last lap, so nothing in performance between the two Rebellions. And guys, that's because they are just battling relentlessly to try and keep Toyota under pressure, to try and somehow win this race.
Coming up to a yellow.
Yep. Yellow's at Marshall's post 10. That's where they are going into the chicane. It'll be green on the exit.
Couldn't see anything.
No.
There was nothing there, and there was a green light just before a yellow flag, so it all seemed
all removed.
Very strange.
May have been that somebody had shot through.
No news on those pit stop infringements for the Rebellion cars.
Again, it often comes through sort of half an hour after it's all happened. I shall go to, well, we should get it on screen actually before it comes up on the steward's notice board. That's normally the way. We certainly saw the black flag for 37 before the decision had been published.
Da Costa is looking a bit happier now in the second place Jota car in LMP2, the 3:31.2, some 2 seconds quicker than the United car in front of him.
And maybe as the temperature has come up, the tyre pressure had just gone out of the happy window.
Well, did I hear Peter say he got into the car on Gonzalez's tyres?
Correct.
I don't think that was a good idea. I think probably because of tyre quota.
Exactly.
But it's never a driver is never going to like getting into a car on a tyre that is a stint or 2 stints old.
And of course we're coming out of night time, and so the sun is starting to warm the track a little. The air temperature's going up, conditions are changing, and so you're always chasing the racetrack with tyre pressures. Alex Brundle gets on board the number 32 car, takes over from Will Owen at United Autosport, and that's a case of what might have been. They could have been leading this race into the final 4 hours, but they're not. Toyota number 7 could have been leading this race into the final 4 hours, but they're not.
10 seconds.
That's for the 88 car. That is the Dempsey Proton car. Adrian Delena now at the wheel of that car. 10 seconds added to their next pit stop for infringements in the slow zone. He didn't do it, but he earned it. Bruno Senna, fastest top speed, 3:47.8. Look at the GT cars, they're not far away either.
Amazing, isn't it, that the fastest lap of Bruno Senna on lap 4, I don't think there's normally a fastest lap on lap 4, is there? It's normally happy hour in the morning.
215 of your miles an hour, that's top speed for Rebellion at a rough rule of thumb. That's 62 kilometers an hour to a mile an hour, 215 and change. That's honking on a bit, isn't it? What were the Mercedes doing in terms of top speed?
I think it's pretty similar.
Yeah.
I think pretty similar.
I think because of the chicanes, I think the ability to run an awful lot quicker has been really restricted, hasn't it? You know, we can remember back to the pre-chicane Mulsanne, the last year of it, WR Racing clocking 400 kilometers an hour with a fully blanked off top speed special. That's all they came for. The Velta Racing boys, it's really all they came for, was to try and crack the 400 kilometer an hour mark. And when they went out of the pit lane with everything blanked off, all the cooling and everything blanked off, sacrificing their most powerful Peugeot V6, everyone knew exactly why. There was one reason and one reason alone, and that was to crack the magic 400k barrier.
What year was that?
Late 80s. I'm gonna have to Google because I need to remember. But you know, and in those days, kind of a car was that. It was just a Bonneville special.
a slippery number.
So it couldn't go around the corners, but it was mega on the straights.
Yeah.
All it was going to do was do that at Le Mans.
Well, there was one monster straight, but the Merc, you were going back to the GT1 era, late 90s, 97, 98, 99 was the last year. Of course, those cars had a lot of horsepower and a similar weight. They were 900 kilos, I think. So, of course, the Toyota now has a lot more power on boost, but actually these cars probably have a bit more drag, and
yeah,
they only boost for the first few hundred meters, and then they tend to sort of just sit there at the top speed.
Well, that's what's really changed from, say, the Group C era, is the power figures have gone up a bit, but the drag and the grip and the downforce that these cars produce has just gone off the scale. And so that's that balance between, for every 10 miles an hour, you
well, the difference is as well, this car,
or something. I mean,
yeah, this car gets to its top speed much quicker. It gets to 300k very quickly, and then it's sort of 301, 302, you know.
In a way that no XJR14 driver could ever remotely imagine. Okay, here's the details on the WR story. 1988. Gerard Velter and his wife, who ran the team, WR Racing, brought a car to Le Mans under the auspices of Project 400. Roger Dorchy, a man who had taken plenty of bravery pills because he drove WR cars, which were not necessarily the greatest cars for a number of years, achieved 407 kilometers an hour, 253 miles an hour on the Mulsanne Straight. But as ever, WR had reliability issues, and that car overheated its way into retirement after going through turbochargers, electrical systems and cooling systems. And Gerard Velter died at the age of 75 at the end of January in 2018. But it was a classic small French team that usually turned up at Le Mans year after year. And I think that is and remains the fastest ever speed recorded in terms of top speed at Le Mans, 407 kilometers an hour.
I think it's the fastest top speed at any racetrack anywhere in the world, isn't it?
You've got to think, haven't you? I can't
Indy?
imagine. I don't know, 253 at Indy? Maybe. In terms of top speed, maybe, because they're, you know, if you're averaging 230, what are you doing?
Yeah, maybe.
Down the stretch? Can't be far away, can it?
You could Google that.
I could, but that's an entirely different race weekend. Let's get back to the action as the number 8 Toyota, our race leader, sweeps through to put another lap on the number 1 Rebellion. We saw Gustavo Menezes flashing the headlights. Whoa, here we go. Yeah, see, the Toyota runs out of hybrid boost, and suddenly Rebellion's got more power and continues to accelerate into the braking area. And you see that, you know, particularly if the Toyota makes a pass coming out of Eau Rouge up the Kemmel Straight at Spa, once it's run out of hybrid boost, it's then suddenly only got 480 horsepower rather than 900, and the 650 horsepower or 750 horsepower, whatever it is, of the Rebellion continues to accelerate it past. So the Toyota now has to regenerate and then be able to release that energy, because it's got a maximum amount of hybrid energy it can release in a lap.
Here it comes.
The Rebellion has a maximum amount of energy it can release in a lap, but it can release it all the time. And the Toyota now runs out of boost, and the gap opens up again. It must be eminently frustrating. This is why Bruno Senna was desperate to get ahead of the Toyotas at the front in the number 1 car, because if you can get in front, it takes them a long time to work their way back. That braking episode allows the computer to release more energy for Brendan Hartley. He'll come back at him there. In the pits is the race third place car, not the race leader, third place car in GT Pro, Nicky Thiem in the Dane Train Aston Martin. Full service and a top up with oil. That's that red canister that goes in. It's pressurized to pump the system full. Fully sealed system the Toyota's got in front. So he's swept around the outside of the Rebellion, presumably down into Indianapolis. And now look at the way he goes. I mean, it makes the Rebellion look like a GT car, and the Rebellion is absolutely not slow off a corner. Frightening pace when they deploy the hybrid system. And of course, it's got the front wheels pulling it out of the corner and the rear wheels pushing it out of the corner. It's an absolutely unmatched combination anywhere in this field at Le Mans.
Technology, of course, used in when everyone says what is a hybrid car? Well, that's the benefits of it. You can combine your engine with electrical power to gain performance and efficiency, of course.
Well, it's like turbocharging or supercharging, isn't it? You can produce more power or greater efficiency, or a combination of the two. Greater efficiency and more power. That's the holy grail here at Le Mans, and the hybrid cars, they use 40% less fuel energy than the normally aspirated cars or the non-hybrid cars. And everybody's saying, well, you know, these are just gas-guzzling dinosaurs. It's because of cars like this and the constant search for more laps from the same amount of energy that your road car is now doing not 30 miles per gallon, but 60 miles per gallon compared to what it was 20 years ago. It is this technology that is pushing all that along. So this is more than just going round in circles. And the list of safety features on your cars, from windscreen wipers to decent headlights to so many other things that have come from racing at races like this, endurance races. Disc brakes. There's not a car on the planet that's not fitted with disc brakes. They make driving safer. Things like ABS were designed by racing teams and developed by racing teams as well. So many safety features and so many economy features on your road car come exactly from test bed laboratories like this. Change your position. 3 goes back in front of 1. Gustavo Menezes was briefly ahead. The number 3 car, Romain Dumas, now in front. Peter Wen is the number 3 car going to stop. Number 1 has just made it stop. They cannot be that far apart in sequence.
I think he stopped last lap.
Did he? Okay. So the Rebellions are very close together. This is a genuine battle for 2nd and 3rd overall. United Autosports number 22 still leading from Jota Sport 38 and G-Drive 26. Jean-Eric Vergne now 2 minutes ahead of the 4th place car in LMP2, the Panis Racing number 31 car. Nico Jamin in that car, Signatech Alpine in 5th, and the Graf Racing entry in 6th position. The gap comes right down under braking, doesn't it? And then the car in front gets on the gas while you're still mid-corner, and that gap opens up again, tantalisingly. Wonder what's going through that man's mind. Hugues de Schonack very nearly won the race with Toyota 25 years after he'd won the race with Mazda. That was the first, and at that stage, only Japanese manufacturer to win Le Mans. But of course, that heartbreak came in the 2016 race when the car broke down with 1 lap to go. Now, can you imagine if somehow with Rebellion, Hugues de Schonack won Le Mans again, but against Toyota from a last hour or last lap heartbreak for the Toyotas?
The gap between Pro is pretty stable, isn't it, at 48 seconds. Of course, when I left the booth, these two were pretty close to each other, and I think the difference is just a brake change, isn't it, between the Ferrari and the Aston? Yeah,
it is pretty much. EDEC Sport goes around a 3-wide AM-class battle.
And takes to the verge.
Yeah, you try and stay off that because that's full of debris from 470 days since it was last a racetrack. There is the EDEC Sport car. This is the better placed of the two.
Richard Bradley at the wheel.
7th in LMP2. Leader is in the pit lane. 3.5 hours to go at Le Mans. That's still a long, long way. Brendan Hartley with the, quote, nighttime helmet on. I just think it's a bit of an All Blacks colour scheme, as befits his status as a top Kiwi sportsman.
A dirty, covered in brake dust Toyota.
Look inside the wheel arch cutout there. There's the rear view mirrors. They're hidden out of the airstream for reduced drag. The wheel arch comes over the top there to just create a laminar flow over the top of the door cutouts. And tucked in there are their rear view mirrors. You can see the Rebellion is just a little higher. That bodywork rolls back down, and so the mirrors are out there on stalks. so like everybody else is there as aerodynamically shaped as possible. Romain Dumas ahead of Gustavo Menezes.
This is going to be a good battle, isn't it? It's fairly well. Gustavo's actually done 31 laps on those tyres now, so
Romain most of a stint ahead, so they're kind of two laps out of sequence. He's got 28 to 31 on there.
You can see
23 to 31, so 8 laps.
Yeah, 7 hours and 20 minutes. Gustavo has driven in this race, a little bit less for Romain. Tough period of the race now for drivers. We heard Antonio Felix da Costa saying, my pace is not good. He's just meaning he's not, you know, happy with the car. Okay, he had old tyres fitted, so that was the main reason. And important now, the drivers that have done a lot of driving, you know, coming up for 7.5 hours here for Gustavo. It's a time when, you know, that night starts to take its toll. There's a few drivers on track who are maybe making silly mistakes in front of you. You've got to be extra careful in the traffic, and it is very easy to make a mistake. Also offline, lots of marbles, lots of dirt, and a tiny, tiny little mistake, and you just go a little bit wide, and literally it's like driving on ice.
You tend to react to the drivers around you. At that time, Ranger van der Zande was going very quick, wasn't he, in the Dragon Speed car? And I think that was what kind of made da Costa think, whoa, what am I doing? Why am I so slow when that other car's 3 seconds a lap faster than me? But he was really flying at that moment. But as you say, da Costa has settled into a nice rhythm again. Okay, he's not quite as quick as a United Autosport car ahead, but he's doing 3:32 last lap round, so he's still in the fight. I think for that car, the Jota car, to actually win this race, the United car is going to have a bit of an issue.
Well, we've seen an issue for one of their two cars, and again, like Toyota, you know, as soon as that happens to a sister car, never mind another Oreca, because it's a different team, they're not as good as us, but when it happens in the next door garage, you always have that little slight worry. And actually, you used the word rhythm that I was going to talk about, because there is a flow, isn't there, to any racetrack, and you start to get into the feeling of it, and once you've got that, it becomes very second nature, bizarre as it seems to suggest, that the car almost feels, Jamie, a little bit like it's driving itself. You're not consciously thinking, here's my braking marker, here's my turning point, this is where I need to go. Much more of your mental acuity is working on strategy for the rest of the race, looking at where the traffic is in front, where you're going to catch it, and that actual physical driving of the car that would take all of the mental capacity of any normal person is taking up very little of yours. It's just flowing, and it's... John Watson used to say, let the car do the work, and that's what you're doing. That's what drivers talk about when they've got that rhythm going. The car's just driving itself, and you're just helping it along.
Yeah, your processing powers are the ability to focus on what's around you. Remember, they're going pretty fast, and having chats with the engineers, you know, a driver might jump in now and say, you know, the question I used to after I do 3 or 4 laps, and I say, how's my pace? You know, because you've got no idea, and it's not referring, I'm obviously in the car going as fast as possible, so it's not like, well, I'll go 2 seconds quicker then. But it's just because the competitive nature in you know where the car was before you get in the car, but you want to know, how is my pace now against the guy that's in 2nd or 4th or 5th, and you want to make sure that you're going quicker, basically. Yeah. And it's risk versus reward. How much risk do you take in the traffic and stuff? It's a critical time, but the driving part is easy.
The subtext, of course, is not how is my pace, it's how is their pace compared to me.
Yes, our main target is to save the tire, the tires and brakes. Main target, save the brakes.
Just as we cut away from that, was the second rebellion spearing off offline in the chicane?
I was just talking about that. A little bit wide, especially at that first chicane. And because no one goes round the outside there. Different at the Porsche curves, where we go round the outside of the right-hander.
There was no one to go round the outside of.
No, but that's what I'm saying. So therefore, it's very dirty. And if he's just 1 or 2 feet wide, well, the car doesn't turn.
Oh, let's hope he avoided the barriers. Debris being cleared out of the cooling ducts of the Aston Martin. Mechanic there taking the temperature of the brakes, having a little look in, and they'll be taking pictures on the phone as well, so they can examine them in detail immediately and see quite how the brakes are being worn. Gustavo Menezes, was that, yeah, he lost a couple of seconds in sector 2, so he did have a bit of a heart-in-the-mouth moment in the first chicane. And again, that radio message that happened just as we were watching that would have been from at least half a lap earlier, probably more than that, just saying, OK, Gus, calm yourself down. We want to finish this race with 2 cars on the podium, not 1 in the gravel.
And of course, he wants to catch Romain.
Of course he does, yeah. They want to be second, not third, but the team are just saying, come on, we could get 2 cars on the podium here. 78 Felbermayr Proton Porsche is in the pit lane. Horst Felbermayr Jr. out of the car, and that is likely, I think, to be his final stint in this car. Wearing the traditional family livery. And he shares the car with Max van Splunteren and Michele Beretta, and I think it may be the rookie champion for the Porsche Mobil 1 Super Cup 2020, Max van Splunteren, who gets in because Ricardo Pero was in the car, Michele Beretta rather, was in the car before Horst Jr. I'm not sure whether Felbermayr needs to do any more time behind the wheel. Felipe Albuquerque, it's going to be a wrestling job to get any of the 3 drivers of this car out of the 22 Rebellion. They all respond so well to the car. Second of the Ferraris in the race, the 71 car is in 2nd place, is in 4th place now. Miguel Molina at the wheel. Out goes the 22 car.
TC gain change, so he's just changed his traction control setting because as the tyres get older, and you can hear it on the LMP2 cars, they've got traction control, and when they come out the Ford chicane in front of us here, you can hear that, but and that's the traction control working as you run a slightly different setting as you go through your stint, and also if you have a heavier fuel load.
Yeah. And as the tyre gets older, it's got a little less grip, and it's easier to break that traction, and that's a vicious circle, isn't it? The more you spin it up, the hotter it gets, the more prone it is to being spun up.
Yeah, and we have 2 different to a road car. Road car is just all automatic. You've got your traction control. In a race car, you've got TC gain and you've got TC slip. So one is the amount of wheel spin that you allow the car to have, and then before it gets controlled, and the other one is the amount of oversteer, so it's a lateral slip, and the driver can change each one.
In my experience, the 2 don't necessarily work fantastically well.
That was a long time ago, Peter. Technology's moved on now.
I'm in a car that has it right now. Not right now, but this year. And yeah, I just tend to try and control it with my foot more than anything else.
And you know, that's what you've spent your entire life perfecting, isn't it? Is that sensitivity of feeling that you do it, you know, you corner the car on the absolute limit of grip, so you should be able to do it under braking without locking the wheels up, and under acceleration without spinning the wheels up. But just, you know, that and it's not that it stops any wheel spin. What you need is a safety net, so if you have got a little squirrely over the curbs, it doesn't get too excessive. So it's not an absolute, it's more like a soft limiter, if you like, on an engine.
Well, it gets to the point where it's actually slowing you down. If you've got it turned right up, it's slowing you down more than helping you. So you just turn it back down, you allow a bit of slip. At the end of the day, it's all down to your tyre. If your tyre's at high grip and you feel like you've got the car under you, you don't need very high. You know, I would normally run TC around about just 3. 3 out of 10 is a good number, just overall.
3's the magic number. Car number 7 in the pit lane. Kamui Kobayashi was at the wheel when the car came in, deep in the night after 12 hours of racing nearly, to have a right-hand bank of cylinders turbo change. It was the exhaust manifold that was at fault. So they had to take the red hot turbo off, change the exhaust manifold and rebuild the entire right-hand side plumbing of the engine. And that cost them half an hour and more and the lead of the race. They had led almost every lap up until that stage and looked very firmly in control. The sister car number 8 had a problem, had dropped off the lead lap. It was very much looking as though fate was smiling on the number 7 car. Fate, however, has 2 faces here at Le Mans, and it turned its other to them.
I'm only just noticing that Brendan Hartley didn't just slot straight into Alonso's space then, did he?
Yes, he did.
He did?
Yeah. Alonso won the last 2 races in that car and then left, having become a double Le Mans winner and a world champion in 1 season, which nobody else had done before. And so Brendan Hartley has joined Sebastian Buemi and Kazuki Nakajima in the number 8 car, and they are double winners. He is also a winner, of course, but for Porsche. So if the number 8 car continues to the checkered flag leading this race, then Seb and Kazuki will become 3-time consecutive Le Mans winners. That is a very rare club indeed. And Brendan Hartley will become one of those drivers who has won Le Mans twice, but for different manufacturers. And that's a relatively rare club as well. Multiple winners tend to have won often with the same factory. Not often, not always, but in the modern era, it tends to be that you're with a dominant manufacturer, like Porsche, like Audi, like Toyota, like Aston Martin, for instance. But the GT categories, it's much more difficult to stay dominant for quite as long. Go back to the 50s and 60s, drivers tend to end up getting hired for the fastest car around, and so they would race for those teams. Just after 11 o'clock in the morning, I'm going to go and have a quick break. Ben Constanduris sitting alongside me. Ben, morning, how are you?
Very well, thank you. I was wondering whether you were going to leave us.
Well, you got to tell me what the time is. I'm busy watching the race. I'm not watching the clock.
That big iPad in front of you has got the time.
The big iPad doesn't say your stint is over, and it's about 1/8 of the area of the TV screen that I'm watching intently, as is everyone else.
All the excuses. At least if Martin goes for a walk, his leg will stop shaking the whole commentary box for the last 4 hours.
It won't.
It's like being rocked to sleep in here, such as the movement from the comms box. Plenty of stories still to be answered at the 88th running of the 24 Hours of Le Mans. Martin will be back to take us to the checkered flag with the usual WEC team of Alan McNish and Graham Goodwin. So just the last couple of hours from Team B, the guests, Peter Dunbreck, Jamie Campbell-Walter and myself, Ben Constanduris. Jamie's already had a successful morning. Fab's on the front row.
Yeah, I had a lovely breakfast.
Yeah, I had an English breakfast in France.
I had the same breakfast that I've had for the last few days.
Yeah, me too.
Identical.
Gap down to 18
Rhythm.
seconds in GT Pro. I'm sure that's because of a pit stop. Peter will be able to tell us. And then the leader in GT Am in the pit lane, Johnny Adam, I think, was getting out of the car. They've got a substantial lead. Well, a 1-lap lead over the Porsche Team Project 1 car. So could this be Johnny Adams' second class win at Le Mans?
Yeah, I think the gap's even larger than that. I think it's almost 2 laps now.
Oh, is it? For
TF Sport over Team Project 1 in the Porsche that have jumped up ahead of the other Porsche. When I last was here, it was the 77 Porsche that was there ahead of the 83, but the 56 has got itself right back up there thanks to Matteo Caroli. Presumably with the Gent driver of that team having done its work, and actually is now in the pits as well. Larry ten Voorde jumping aboard that car, also a fast peddler. So there's still some answers to be sorted out between the 2 Porsche teams there.
We saw in the night, didn't we, that Johnny Adam and Ross Gunn did literally all of the nighttime driving, and we see Jolik in the TF Sport car now getting in. I'm not quite sure how.
If he is getting in,
he's in.
All right, so this is he's definitely had enough driving time.
Oh, has he?
Yeah, this
so
is...
they think we've got this in the bag. Let's give the boss man a few laps. Okay. Let's hope he doesn't make any mistakes. But he had a good night's sleep. Looking good for the young car.
If after this stint, he will definitely have enough driving time. I haven't calculated it totally, but this stint would definitely put him over.
The big question, of course, is in GT Pro is whether or not the 97 Aston Martin, which is on screen at the moment, is it? No, that's the 95.
Well,
has to change its brakes or not.
Yeah.
Oh, and a little
the
mistake
51 is due in this lap, so automatically the 97 will take the lead again.
Yeah.
We've seen brake changes for the 95 Aston Martin and the 51 Ferrari, but I don't think we have seen the brake change for the 97. And you would expect at least once for the calipers and discs to be swapped over in a GT car. Rebellion threading its way through the traffic. Suddenly these guys are having to really step up their pace because Gustavo Menezes is putting pressure on Romain Dumas for that battle for second position. So much at stake in both of those cars. Dumas, of course, has already stood on the top step of the podium. I'm not sure if anybody else in that group of two cars has even been on a podium at Le Mans. Bruno Senna has been with Rebellion for the last couple of years, but it's always been fourth place for him. And he's missed the podium, so huge amount of potential excitement for both those cars. They're not going to be caught by the Toyota 7 unless there's issues. And we heard on the radio to Gustavo Menezes before he made a small error at the chicane, the focus is on saving tyres and on saving brakes. And he turned around to his engineer and said, shush. And then made a mistake at the chicane. So he possibly should have listened a bit harder. But the pace is good. The pace is relentless between those two right now.
That's the thing, you know, just say the number 8 has an issue.
Yeah.
And we're left with two Rebellions fighting it out. The team desperately will want to win. But whoever's driving each of those cars, there's no prizes for coming second. You know, so it's...
And he's got caught behind the Aston Martin going into the first chicane. Romain Dumas was not able to stuff it up the inside of the Aston Martin. And suddenly Menezes closes even further to within 0.4 of a second between these two Rebellions. Amazing after so many hours, 20 hours and 42 minutes worth of racing. We still have a battle for the podium between teammates. In LMP1, we haven't really spoken about LMP1 at all during the race so far, such as being the spacing between the cars and the small issues that we've seen Toyota have, but now it's properly heating up.
So that's all the front runners all in the straight in the same place, isn't it? Have we got the number 8 just in front of them, or was that my imagination?
No, they have got a Toyota in front of them.
So we've got the 8 in front and we've got the 7 behind. So all 4 P1 cars are in a line on the straight.
Let's hear what they're saying to Gustavo Menezes. Try to cool him down earlier. Has he cooled in the 1?
We hold the position. We hold the position.
Oh.
And 7 brakes.
Hold the position, save the brakes is the message. That's the message to Gustavo Menezes. Is he really going to listen?
I think he has to listen. These, you know, you can't disobey the team and expect to get higher next year, or expect to, you know, have the chance to move to perhaps a factory team, which ultimately he would want to do.
But remember, it was advantage number 1 for so much of this race before they had a small issue that was kind of a question mark over the front end of that car, not quite fitting properly. It was pretty good though. And that longer pit stop just to fix the fitting and put a new nose onto the car is why they are sitting in 3rd rather than 2nd position. And now the team says, hold station.
3 hours and 16 minutes to go. I don't think there's any rush, but that number 7 has to make a choice here.
that was the message to Gustavo Menezes. Is there a response?
2 seconds gap is necessary. 2 second gap necessary with system there.
So now he's being asked to drop back. 2-second gap between the sister car. This is really tough for Gustavo Menezes, and he's got huge traffic ahead of Romain Dumas, who clears the GT car, doesn't clear the LMP2 car, but presumably will also be being told that Gustavo will not pass you. Do not feel pressured into the pace of the sister car, because he's being told to drop back.
Multi-2020.
Yes, multi-2020.
Yeah, I mean, Gustavo, he's worried about his own race, and he wants to be P2 on that podium, doesn't he? But the team have got an obligation to make sure that those two cars, with 3 hours to go, just over 3 hours to go, are both on that podium.
Lots and lots of chatter on the team radio of team number 1. We haven't heard what Gustavo has to say yet. Perhaps this is a response.
Leave a gap, please. Leave a gap. Yeah, it's a difficult one. Yeah, let's say that behind you as well. I'm not going to take any risk with it now.
Yeah, emphasizing to leave a gap. He's saying, I'm not going to take any risks. You need to trust me, but I'm concerned about what's happening behind. He doesn't need to be. The Toyota number 7 that is behind them on track is also 2 laps behind, so not too much of a concern. But controversial team orders going on at Rebellion Racing right now.
Yeah, he's been told twice as well, hasn't he? So
yeah.
It was a real back off, Gustavo. We don't want you to race. Romain has obviously been told, can you just stroke the car home now? We want you just a nice pace, comfortable, stay off the curbs, don't take any risks in traffic, and bring it home. Gustavo obviously came out of the pit lane, right, 2 seconds behind. I want to catch my teammate, but the team have clearly said a nice gap. The main reason for the gap is nothing to do with the pace and all of those things. It's to do with the brake cooling, because they're tight on the front brakes, overheating, not overheating, but wearing, and the dirty air from the car in front obviously just creates a bit more heat. More heat creates more wear, and they do not want to run out of brakes with that Toyota number 7 breathing down their necks, albeit 2 laps. If they've suddenly got to change brakes, that erodes into that lead that they've got. And as the number 7 Toyota now blasts past on the hybrid power, past Gustavo. Next on his list, of course, will be the number 3 car. And the 7 car, you see, they've got nothing to lose. They're 2 laps down on that car, so they'll still be pushing, whereas Rebellion, different tack, 2 podium places, and just bring the car home.
Now, Gustavo would have nice air cooling to the front end of that car if he was in front of Romain Dumas. He's being told to drop back to 2 seconds behind, but no way is that happening right now. The gap at the moment stabilizing at just under a second. And now Kamui Kobayashi having to be a little bit more aggressive with Romain Dumas to get past him.
Well, yeah, Romain tried for the block there, as if he thought, no, I think if I'm Romain, I'd just say, oh, yeah, go on, you sail right by, no problems. 2 laps down at this stage of the race, you know, it's going to take a problem, and he could create a problem by driving too hard.
Just over 7 minutes is therefore the gap between the number 1 Rebellion and the number 7. And in theory, the Toyotas can now disappear. But look how Romain Dumas is right on the tail of him and almost feeling like he's being held up going into the
I don't think he has had the radio conversation with the pits yet about what he should do. And now Gustav, he's right behind as well. So this is not what Rebellion want.
I mean, looks close enough to... Not quite close enough to make a move, but pretty close going up into the first sector. Remember, the first sector is where the Toyota is faster.
Okay, Toyota locked the wheel into the corner there.
Oh, they're really disturbing this not battle between the Rebellions. The Toyotas tended to be a little slower through the first sector than Rebellions throughout the whole of free practice, just in the way Toyota uses their hybrid power. Not holding up Romain too much, though.
So he should buzz off down this straight a little bit.
That's what Romain needs. Get out of my face. And here is Kobayashi just snatching a break. It wasn't one brake. It looked like both front brakes locking up there. The lines that they left suggested both front wheels locked.
So they're searching for some air now. But yeah,
is there some funky business going on?
Is still that little bit too close for comfort if they really do want that 2-second cooling gap.
And if Romain Dumas is also marginal on brake temps, is the Toyota purposefully not disappearing out of their face to try and heat up the brakes of the car behind? Not got nothing else that it can do at the moment, because it's not going to be able to disappear into distance and gain that amount of advantage in 3 hours, although he is starting to pull away now.
Well, that is the thing. You know, the fourth place car traditionally would just be absolutely hammering it, because what have you got to lose?
And now he is. Now he's checked out. So it was just simply that kind of deployment of power from the Toyota in the first part of the lap. But Gustavo Menezes is still only half a second behind Romain Dumas, and certainly not obeying his engineers right now.
Yeah, with that kind of gap there now, I guarantee you, we've not heard it yet, but I guarantee you the engineer or even the team boss, Hugo de Schoenack, will come on the radio and say, Gustavo, please, 2 seconds, not 3/10.
Yes. We have told you time and time again, please listen.
All this time, whilst he's doing this, those front brakes are getting hotter and they're wearing faster. And as the brake discs wear, they get thinner and thinner and thinner, less carbon material to dissipate that heat. So the wear rate is exponential. It really does ramp up as the discs get thinner and thinner. So, you know, can be a problem for them. Not now, but maybe in 2 hours' time.
And that is the engineering forecast for those cars. That's what the engineers have seen the possibility. And that is why they're calling for cooling.
And that's also why we heard them saying, you know, can you please go as far rearward on the brake balance as possible.
And again, Dumas gets caught in traffic. Oh, the Dragon Speed properly getting in the way that time and locking up, and Henrik Heimann eventually getting out of the way. But there's also a GT car ahead of them, which they should breeze past. They do.
0.2 tenths of a second as they cross the line.
It's not 2 seconds, is it?
He's tired. He's obviously thinking he's about 2 seconds behind. How does he know?
Everything in slow motion. Now he's dropped back a little bit.
Yeah, back down to 0.4.
Fascinating. I wonder if they'll be able to race as they get closer to the flag, if they stay in flying formation like this.
It's quite clear that Gustavo's obviously quicker than Romain, but might be an idea for the team just to say to Romain, let him past.
More team radio from Rebellion. Let's have a listen to what's going on this time.
Just to let you know, Romain is like a lunatic right at Toyota. Copy. Hold the position, face the brakes, and a bit more of the gap, please.
Was that Menezes dobbing his teammate in there, driving like a lunatic behind the Toyota?
And the engineer calmly saying, just remember, hold position, 2 second gap, save brakes, save tyres. Engineers are boring, aren't they?
Yeah.
So Roma in this lap, and Gustavo 1 lap later, so
that's the lap to do it then, isn't it?
That's the lap to push and try and just jump him.
He's going to come out the Porsche curves literally on his tail, because he doesn't want to drop back for that lap. And then he's going to push pretty hard, I imagine, on his in-lap.
We're still seeing cars out there able to do fastest laps of their races. Roberto Merri in the Eurasia Motorsport 35 has just managed to do the same. So there is possibility in the track. And there is speed in the track and in the conditions. It's not a hot and sunny day. It's pretty overcast. But there's plenty of rubber down. We haven't seen any rain to clear that rubber off the circuit. and so it is running fast. Here's team radio for Gustavo Menezes once again.
Understood, mate. Understood. We are about to stop all the position and save the brakes. Yeah, I understand. I will overtake him until you say again.
Brilliant. I'm lifting and trying to create the gap, but he's making too many mistakes to make it easy. Make it possible.
They're not friends, are they?
That's Romain Dumas, two-time overall winner. It's cheeky to say that about your teammate, especially with the experience that Romain has. Either way, Romain goes to the pits. Gustavo, unfortunately, with quite a bit of traffic.
Yeah. It's exactly what he didn't want to see.
No, he should blast past that car. Was it 2 GT cars as well?
Yeah.
If it is, he might get past them.
Into the pits then. Romain Dumas needs a good service from his team.
Actually, he's getting... Is he getting out? No, we should have one more stint from Romain.
And second stint on those tyres, presumably, as well.
Third stint, no?
Third stint.
And Gustavo is actually going to get out.
Ooh, that'll change things. Somebody will be giving a nice pre-drive briefing in the Rebellion garage. You know what you need to do. Please listen and please behave.
So it'll be fuel only for this car. Romain has stayed in. And off he goes.
All right, not a massively clean exit, but we've seen that car difficult to get out the pits across the night. A little bit stally. Now, what is Gustavo doing on this lap? 33.3 in the first sector.
Not great, so he got that traffic.
Norman Nato due in the car, from my calculations here.
Okay. Norman with Le Mans experience, but no experience of standing on a podium at Le Mans. And for any Frenchman, that's an incredibly special feeling. It's a special feeling for anyone that knows anything about motorsport, but to a Frenchman, it's even just that little bit more. Brendan Hartley leads. Second position now at this second to the #1 Rebellion. Gustavo Menezes aboard that car. 77.6 through sector 2. He will come into the pits. Presumably will have the same... Actually, if they're changing drivers, is he going to have tyres as well, Peter?
You would think so, yeah.
In which case, he'll be dropped 20 seconds behind.
But he'll be on new tyres.
But he'll be on new tyres. Swings and roundabouts. An important lap this for Gustavo Menezes. It's clean through Indianapolis and Arnage. May catch a little bit of traffic in the Porsche curves. But doesn't look too bad up ahead. In-laps and out-laps, always incredibly key to get right. The opportunity to undercut, to go faster than the man you're battling with. Although, with the new, well, I suppose Dumas doesn't have the new tyres, so doesn't have the opportunity to push, although at least they're on different parts of the track, and that always mixes things up when you start hitting different bits of traffic, different pockets around the circuit. Cleanly past the Porsche, and now we expect the #1 Rebellion to dart to the right-hand side and into pit lane. Let's see the service that the Rebellion give this car. Potentially another reason as to why they were telling him not to push too hard, because actually it doesn't matter now that he comes into the pits and will take a full service and drop 20 seconds back. Let's see.
Unless he's doing 4 stints.
No, this is his 4th stint.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. So he's got to get out, and in theory, therefore, you would expect change of tyres as well. So this would be a a full 1 minute 30 odd stint.
He's staying in. He's staying in.
He is staying in. Is this a 5th stint then, Peter?
Yeah.
Wow, okay.
Alan's confirmed it, so Peter's eyes are still working.
And that means the tyres are staying on as well, which means it's going to be another stint where Rebellion 1 and Rebellion 3 are locked together on the same part of the circuit. Here comes Romain Dumas through the first part of the Ford chicane, rattling over the second.